In Venezuela, the National Assembly approved the Simón Bolívar Liberator law against the U.S. blockade and in defense of the country. The Nicaraguan parliament approved on Thursday an important reform to the general law on migration and foreigners with the aim of guaranteeing the protection of national sovereignty. And Chad announced its determination to break security and defense cooperation agreements with France. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the National Assembly approved the Simón Bolívar Liberator law against the blockade imposed by the United States and in defense of the country. During an ordinary session of the Venezuelan parliament, the second discussion of the bill presented by the legislators of the National Assembly was approved. The law foresees, among other points, disqualification for life of politicians who call for invasions and coercive measures. The president of the parliament, Jorge Rodriguez, stated that this law pays homage to the liberating deed of Simón Bolívar in Latin America and to the struggles of the rest of the liberators who also fought for independence and sovereignty.
Cuando levanten la mano, diputadas y diputados.
When you raise your hands, deputies, to approve this law, please assume it is because you are sons and daughters of the liberator Simón Bolivar. And of the liberators of America, assume it is because you are worthy people, decent people, free people, independent people. Assume it is because you are worthy representatives of the liberating deed of America, the deputies who are in favor of approving the bill of the liberator Simón Bolivar against the imperialist blockade and in defense of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Please signify by the customary sign. It is approved. Consequently, we will also approve the organic character. Approved unanimously, the law is declared sanctioned. The Simón Bolivar organic law against the imperialist blockade and in defense of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. It is referred to the Constitutional Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice, so that it may be pronounced on the constitutionality of its organic character, in accordance with the provisions of Article 203 of the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
De la Constitución de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
And we stay in Venezuela as the country signed a new investment and food security agreement with Antigua and Barbuda. This is the second alliance with the Agro-Alba project after St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It should be noted that the agreement comprises a strategic cooperation in various areas of common interest between the two nations to address illegal coercive measures and promoting the development of member countries and friendly countries. The signing took place at the headquarters of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas People's Trade Treaty, ALBA TCP, in Caracas, where the executive secretary of the bloc, Jorge Arreaza, thanked Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, for his confidence in the mechanism.
De nuevo, dándole las gracias al primer ministro.
Once again, I would like to thank Prime Minister Gaston Brown for his confidence in ALBA, for his confidence in Venezuela, and of course, for taking this initiative.
En Venezuela, y por supuesto por tomar esta iniciativa, este paso importante.
This important step for joining. This is the second country to join Agro-Alba. The first was St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ambassador Boris is present. Ambassador Anthony is also present. And the important thing for the unity of our people is to work together. And there is nothing more beautiful than cultivating the land together, to produce food for life.
Que trabajar la tierra juntos, que producir alimentos para la vida, que lograr
to be able to produce food in different countries of the Bolivarian Alliance that can be used for the social prosperity of our people, for our youth, for the future.
Para nuestra juventud, para el futuro.
We go now to other topics. A memorial in Colombia featured a line of colorful booths adorned with messages and flowers honoring the victims of the false positive scandals, a dark chapter in the nation's history. The scandal involved the Colombian army's alleged responsibility for over 6,000 extrajudicial killings and forced disappearances of civilians from the years 2002 to 2008. The military reportedly dressed these victims in combat gear to falsely present them as rebels, a practice that has drawn widespread condemnation. During the memorial, the names of 1,934 victims were read aloud by representatives from the Special Jurisdiction for Peace.
Bastaría un solo nombre.
A single name should suffice to deplore what happened. The cry of a single grieving mother should be enough to understand that using the state's weapons to attack innocent citizens is illegal and immoral. Those who were called to protect them turned against us, breaching their constitutional duties and, worse, betraying their humanity.
Y peor aún, traicionando su humanidad.
And also in Colombia, a building collapse in Barranquilla has resulted in the death of a woman and the rescue of 4 children from the rubble. Colombian military officials confirmed the incident, which took place in a residential area of the city. Emergency response teams worked to locate and extract the children who were found alive amidst the debris. Authorities are now investigating the cause of the collapse, raising concerns about construction standards and safety regulations in the region. This incident underscores ongoing issues related to urban infrastructure in Colombia, where similar tragedies have occurred due to inadequate enforcement of building codes. And during a historic ceremony, Honduran Education Secretary Daniel Enriquez Ponda declared the Western Department of Copan to be free of illiteracy. This achievement of the National Illiteracy Program, promoted by the government of President Xiomara Castro, has taught more than 383,000 people to read and write. To date, 7 departments and 252 municipalities are free of illiteracy. Honduras expects to completely end illiteracy by the first quarter of the year 2025. And the Nicaraguan parliament approved on Thursday an important reform to the general law on migration and foreigners with the aim of guaranteeing the protection of national sovereignty. The legislator has also introduced an amendment to the penal code in order to modernize and strengthen the nation's legal framework. Parliamentarians stressed during the session that the law aims by strengthening border controls to combat organized crime, human trafficking and smuggling, as well as terrorism and threats to the territory. These reforms will also ensure a solid legal framework for investments in the country and will expand guarantees for the protection of children and adolescents. We now move on to other topics. In Brazil, the landless movement in Sao Paulo held an art meeting that featured Palestinian artists. The meeting took place with the framework of the World Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. The action seeks to make visible the genocide perpetrated by the Israeli Zionist regime against the Palestinian population. It is important to highlight that this is not the first time that in Brazil an art meeting is held in solidarity with the Palestinian people, who since last October 7th are the victims of an escalation of the conflict with Israel. The landless movement, the MST, is an important Brazilian farmer social movement that groups around 350,000 families in its ranks and is dedicated to the struggle for the fair distribution of land.
This is very important to give visibility to the Palestinian cause and the liberation process of the Palestinian people, and to understand that art, culture, are tools that show that it is not about animals, about things, but about people who make art and culture. They want to be free like any other citizen of the world.
And in Indonesia, the National Search and Rescue Agency reported that the number of people killed by floods and landslides in North Sumatra province has risen to 27. According to the entity, 7 people lost their lives this week after an avalanche hit a bus in which about 20 people were traveling. The incident occurred in the district of Deli Serdang and left a dozen people injured who received care at a local health center. So far, an alert has been issued to the population to warn them that new incidents of this type could occur in the next few days. It is important to note that since last weekend, heavy rains in the province have caused heavy floods, leaving at least 10 fatalities in the areas of Karo and Padang Lawas. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Chad announced its determination to break security and defense cooperation agreements with France. Through a statement, the government informed about the decision to end the cooperation agreement. However, it emphasized that the decision does not question the historical relations and friendly ties between the nations. Chad was the last country with a French military presence in the Sahel, following the withdrawal of French troops from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The African country's announcement comes just hours after the visit of the head of French diplomacy, Jean-Noël Barrot. And the United States announced new sanctions against Russia. These do not only threaten Russia's revenues, but also the energy security of several countries, including Turkey. Our correspondent Yunus Soner has the details.
The announcement came from the U.S. Treasury Department on November 21st. Among other entities, Gazprom Bank was sanctioned. The sanctions prohibit this bank from interacting with U.S. banks, as well as third parties, with secondary sanctions.
Gazprom Bank has an industrial role here in Turkey. The Russian companies established in Turkey had problems transferring capital from their country to Turkey, just like with the transfer of dividends to Russia.
Apart from trade, natural gas imports are key for Turkey, explains Serayf Oskan Nesimioglu, energy policy expert.
Turkey imports between 42 and 50% of its natural gas consumption from Russia. This implies a very large payment.
Until now, out of sanctions, Gazprom Bank, which is partly owned by the company Gazprom, played a key role here, and not only for Turkey.
Turkey secures its gas consumption through Turkstream. Here, payment was made through Gazprom Bank. Russia receives its payment through this entity.
The Turkstream connection transports gas not only to Turkey, but from here to several European countries, including Serbia, Hungary, Italy, and Austria. Nesimioglu says the decision, which will come into force on December 20th, is generating reactions.
It may be that the countries do not support the war in Ukraine, but with their decision, moreover, in winter conditions, putting them in difficult conditions, the United States has created a club of anti-United States. We see strong statements there.
Before Parliament's Budget Committee, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan criticized the United States for not paying any attention to the needs of other countries. Energy Minister Alparslan Bayraktar said, "If we cannot pay, we cannot receive energy." Experts see possible solutions.
All parties are going to do their best to solve the problem through bilateral agreements. Russia has already demonstrated its willingness to do so. The bill will probably be paid in smaller amounts through different banks.
The Turkish minister demanded an exemption from sanctions from the United States, as was the case with gas imports from Iran. At the same time, representatives of the foreign ministries and the ministries of energy, trade, treasury, and the central banks of Russia and Turkey met to discuss possible solutions.
A common bank can be established, and more use can be made of national currencies. Open accounts or barter can also be used. In the end, Turkey buys a lot of gas and oil from Russia, but also exports diesel and refined oil to that country.
In perspective, the expert says that this situation has once again underlined the importance of working on alternative payment systems to the West, as was discussed at the last BRICS summit.
teleSUR, Istanbul, Turkey. And we continue now with the other topics. In China, a museum in Shanghai set an important milestone in its visitor numbers by registering more than 1 million visitors to an exhibition on ancient Egypt. Let's see.
La exhibición titulada En la cima
The
de la
exhibition,
pirámide,
entitled At the Top of the Pyramid, The Civilization of Ancient Egypt, was
inaugurada
inaugurated more than 4 months ago, and since then the exhibit has maintained a strong daily attendance rate of around 8,000 people. Ticket sales have already exceeded 1.3 million. And this number is expected to continue to rise until the end of this year, and could surpass the record set by a museum in the United States. Among the main objects on display are large items such as sculptures and murals, as well as smaller ones such as tablets and writings.
así como más pequeños como tablillas y escritos.
The previous record for an Egyptian exhibition was set at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York in 1978. With 1.36 million visitors, given current trends, we are on track to surpass that record.
Esta exposición cuenta con más de 700
This exhibition features more than 780 works from ancient Egypt, almost all of which are being presented for the first time on the Asian continent, making it the largest exhibition of its kind to be held outside of that country. The exhibition also marks the first major collaboration between a Chinese state museum and the African nation's government to present world-class artifacts to the Chinese population, who have recorded a 65% year-on-year increase in the number of Chinese visitors to Egypt. The popularity of the exhibition has been so great that it has also stimulated sales of cultural and creative products in Shanghai, from fridge magnets to scented candles, as well as other items for games that have become very attractive to young people. In addition, the exhibition has also had an impact on the city's tourism and entertainment activity, which has helped the local economic activity and its inhabitants to grow.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. My name is Belén de los Santos, and this was From the South.